Hollywood Scriptwriter Magazine is a trade publication that profiles screenwriters, producers, and directors. We let you into their lives where they tell you how they made their mark in one of the toughest industries of Hollywood, the big screen. Subscribe today at hollywoodscriptwriter.com. Today we have Carla Roda in the studio, who is an award-winning editor, director, and producer. She is the only woman from Spain to edit for the big studios. Welcome to Hollywood Scriptwriter Magazine's spotlight of screenwriters, producers, and directors. Tell us about Carla. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So excited.
Yeah, me too. I want to hear so much about you. You're doing so many things, so
Yes.
we can't wait to get into it. Tell us about Carla.
So I was originally born in a city very near Barcelona, 30 kilometers from Barcelona. It's called Granollers, and I come from a family of artists. So I think that's why I guess I became who I am. My dad is a director producer. My mom is an actress producer. So since I was little, I think I was already like I was born into like that was my destiny almost. And so yeah, I was born there, and after graduating in college there, I decided I wanted to do the big step, and I just took my bags, $200 cash, and I came to America and to live my dream.
Wow, the American dream, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Give us a summary of some of your high-profile projects that you worked on and are basically working on now.
Yeah, so the most recent project that is coming out that we are doing the premiere in Tribeca actually next week. It's a docu-series for HBO Max called Menudo Forever Young, which is about the boy bands Menudo that they come from Puerto Rico. They came from Puerto Rico, and it was like one of the biggest boy bands. Almost, I feel it was like kind of like the pioneers before even Backstreet Boys or like One Direction or all of that. I think they were like all the way there with Boys to Men, and all New Edition. So yeah, we just created this docu-series. I was the editor, one of the editors. There was like other collaborators that came in and out, and an amazing team, because I always say editing documentaries, it's only possible if you have an amazing army behind you supporting and just helping you putting everything together, because as you know, there is no scripts almost in documentaries, so you're putting the scripts together as you edit, you're creating the movie as you edit. So if you don't have an army behind you, it's really impossible. And that's what I love the most about editing documentaries, because you're almost too like being a post-production director almost. When you're doing your own cuts, it's like you're directing your own little pieces and then just pitching them into the producers and directors like, hey, this is my idea, do you buy it? So it's extremely excited. So that's my latest project, and as I said, it's we're premiering next week in Tribeca, and it's coming in HBO Max in, if I'm not mistaken, June 21st or 23rd, one of those 2 days. But it's a Latin boy band, so I'm extremely excited to highlight this community, Puerto Rico specifically.
So you're an editor, director, and producer.
Yeah.
How did you get started in the industry from the beginning? Because our listeners, as well as with the readers of our magazine, are some who are already seasoned, and then we have many who are trying to get started in the industry.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that we are unique about our magazine, is helping people to realize the struggle or not struggle, or who you know, but how did you even, I know you were born basically into this by your DNA, but aside from that, what got you actually into the industry?
Well, I mean, this is funny because I was born into the DNA, but I always said to my dad, the first thing I said to him is like, I do not want any contacts. I do not want anything from you. What I want is support, is the love of the parents, but I don't want you. I want to grow building my own network, building my own agenda. And that's why I think decided to like came all the way here. Now I have to say that when I finished college, Spain was in a huge economical crisis, and there was absolutely no jobs for like young people like me that was like starting. So literally my options were like barely minimum. So that was another like kind of like thing that made me like jump to here. And like I say, I literally came with $200. I started living in an Airbnb. I enrolled myself into a master's degree because of come to America, you kind of have to start with a visa. My visa, it was a student visa. And then I was doing a master degree for 1 year, and then from there you give yourself like what it's called an OPT, and then from an OPT you try to build contacts, and then you go to an O1 visa and all of that. So the struggle to go through visas, I feel it has been the biggest as an immigrant. It's like all the visas building, but in order to actually qualify for these visas, you really need to demonstrate that you can give something to the American industry, like that somebody else cannot give. So I think, like I said, like I think I believe what I could bring to the table to any project I was, and I like fight myself to the teeth to be able to go in every single studio and just knock doors and say like, hi, my name is Carla. I speak English, but I also speak Spanish, and I also speak French, and I also speak Catalan. So I can give you so many things, and I give you an European vision. So I always like try to get kind of like what will be my advantage, and my advantage was like I speak languages and I come from a different culture, and I can bring that kind of mentality to a project here in America. I always joke in every single interview that I do for documentaries, when it was like, oh, we are doing this like very much this American style. I was like, well, if you're hiring me, you're probably gonna get like a very opposite style. So I always like try to like build that to my advantage, and just really just remember that my worthy, and like every interview that I am, is just be confident of like, if they don't take you, it's because it wasn't a good match. It doesn't mean I'm a bad editor. It doesn't mean I'm a bad director, I'm a bad producer. It means it wasn't a perfect match in this situation. But just don't give up. And that's what I did. I just didn't give up. I got so many no's. I have been here for 8 years, and probably the first 4 years I had more no's than yes. It took me like 4 years to start getting like a percentage of yes higher than no's. But like I say, I think that the most important is like value yourself, like market yourself how you want to present, and then just don't give up, because so many people give up. But if you keep persistent, I think you will arrive there.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, based on your experience, is the most important to get into the field? Because you've given us a lot of meat on your personal journey and getting into this. And $200 today, I mean, you can't even get on the bus for $200. But and of course, not giving up, which is what we hear. But the industry, first of all, let me ask you: do you feel the industry has become harder to get into, or a little more easier, or what?
I mean, over the years it became easier for me, because when I arrived here, I didn't know absolutely anybody, and this is like what I said, like in general, not like just personally into my case. I feel like what you need to do is network. You really need to network, and you really need to go like to little events, and like introduce yourself, and just like things that I really hate. That's why I became an editor, because I'm an extremely shy person. But I feel like without going into these events, without going into networkings, and at that time when I started, I really only had access to go to meetups. There was this website called Meetup, so I would look.
There.
Yeah. Okay. So I would look at meetups. I was like, okay, there is this meetup about screenwriters, or there is this meetup about producers. I don't know. Let's go there, and maybe I meet somebody that will connect me to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else. So I literally started doing that. And then when I start meeting people, they will invite me to other events and to other events. And, it was literally just networking, because it's hard going into like a place or like in a resume without almost having references. But if you find the right people, sometimes, it's a little bit easier. And as somebody that literally didn't have context, my way to go was like literally meetups, or even Facebook groups. I will like just put myself into a Facebook group, and I will see that they are doing an event, and I will just go myself and introduce and just get to know people.
And that's interesting because networking never seems to go out of style, no
Yeah.
matter what. And then in every social media you've named on now, how people can network themselves to get to know others. And that's like, it's very interesting how that just never, ever goes out of style.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel it's something that you can do here, and really you can do in any country. There is meetups, like honestly, in a lot of countries. You know, in Spain, there's meetups. In Canada, I live in Canada too for a year and a half, working there. So you know, like I will go to meetups, and I feel like it's the best tool for international people. You know, when you don't know anybody at that place, because I don't know if lucky or unlucky, but when I did my master's degree, all my classmates, there was no American classmates. So we were all immigrants. So like almost I think from my classmate, I think I'm the only one that stays in America. Like the other people left. So I was like, okay, I'm starting from zero after a year of building this network with me, this amazing, like talented people from all over the world. Now that everybody's going away, so I have to start all over. But I think that's the challenge too, and I like challenges. So I felt like, yeah, I felt like, okay, keep working, keep fighting for it, and you know, to arrive to a point where I said like, great, like that's where I am right now. That instead of giving my resume, they come and call me instead of me having to go behind.
Mhm. And that's interesting because some people believe, particularly in this industry, that, you know, a master's degree or even a solid education may not even matter. And yet you got a master's in the craft. That, do you feel that that has helped you because of your degrees or because of your talent?
Well, I think our industry is a mix. I love studying, so for me it was very important to go to university, and because if this career will fail, I will have something. So because I did the double major, I did like cinema and television, but I also did journalism. So I had like this kind of like two paths, you know, like okay, if one fails, I have the other one. But then when I arrived here to America, I was like, I do need to do a master's degree because what I study was like kind of like the European way to see cinema, the European way to like see things. And I was really interested to see, okay, what is the American way? And for me, it was it was an extremely learning experience to like be able to like study both industries and then create my own industry within the mix of Europe and American visions, you know. And for me it was extremely helpful, and you know, a part that helped me with my English, improve my English at the same time, you know, because that's what I needed too. It's like if I'm here, I need to like be able to like speak fully English, and even though I knew English, the master really like make me like speed the process. So for me it was extremely important, but I do understand that sometimes people said like, oh, why will you spend like 30, 40, $50,000 into a master's degree when you can invest that into a movie? And yes, that's true, you can do that too, but for me my reasoning or my path was that. And also, you know, as an immigrant is a little bit complicated if you really don't have a visa as a student. Like I wouldn't only be here to be 3 months, and I really wanted to stay here a little bit longer. So I mean, it's still like I had to do a master's degree, or it didn't have to be a master's, but I already had a bachelor, so I wanted to go a little bit higher of my education.
Hmm. Do you find that even it still shines in some way on your application or your resume, whether a foreign student or not, or a foreign someone from another country or not?
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes, I mean, it did help a little bit. It did help a little bit. And now it's true that like it's when they ask me for a job as an editor, they will never ask me, okay, what is your degree or what is your master? They're gonna ask me, give me an example of what you have got before and all of that. But I think the master and the degree gives me security, gives me kind of like, it was like I had to study that, like I know all these things. I know where to look, and then you know I never stop learning because as an editor too, like you like the programs keep changing, you know, so I have to keep up of like Premiere now has different versions and Avid and like all of that. You know, I started with Final Cut, so it was just like I had to keep learning, and YouTube appear, and then you can Google everything and you can learn and you can buy books and learn everything, but Yeah, for me it was like it's a security, and even though they don't ask me that much, it just felt secure for me to have an education if I never want to go to another path.
Hmm. Now, as editor, producer, and director, are those three very different fields?
Yeah.
So some people just say, I'm a director, I'm a producer, I'm an editor, and you're all three. So I mean, are they similar or are they so different? You just happen to have those three different skills because our listeners and our readers of the magazine, are either editors, producers, or directors, or even sometimes producer and director or screenwriters.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I did started as a producer. So I like when I finished college and when I arrived here, I was only really producing and like a lot of like movies specifically. And then I started to realize, okay, producing is not really my vibe. It was my family's vibe, and that's I got into it. But really, what I really liked it was directing and editing. And those two, which is the ones that I have developed the most in the past 5 years, for me are extremely connected. I feel like in order, for example, right before the pandemic, I was asked to direct a movie, and I was already been editing for 10 years. So when I was directing, I knew exactly when I was deciding to do a shot or another take, how I was going to edit. My brain was already editing the movie as I was directing. So that's extremely helpful for me because instead of like spending like hours and hours doing 5 or 6 or 8 takes, I only do 2 takes because I know exactly what I'm going to take for each take to do the cutting. So I don't overshoot. And that I think is extremely helpful for me because then I go to the editing room and I know exactly what I have to put the pieces. And editing, I feel, is also like connected to directing. Like I said, like I do a lot of like documentary editing, and for me editing documentary is directing at the same time because you don't have a script. You only have kind of like a log line of like, this is the project I want to do, and then it's up to you really to write and direct as you're going and editing, and then presenting that vision into like, the producers. So I feel directing and editing are extremely connecting. Producer, it's true. And now there is times that you finish a project and they say like, oh, we really like your like the work you did, we offer you a producing credit. But that goes a little bit into the bureaucracy and the back end points and all of that, and that's why then you get into the producing credits. But I do feel, which is the one that I'm developing the most right now, that directing and editing are extremely connected.
Hmm. Hmm. Did you ever have a mentor or anyone to inspire you?
Yeah, so well, first of all, of course, my family, but I was extremely lucky that in 2019 I was selected to be a mentor a mentee, sorry, in a program called Karen Shimmer Editing Fellowship Program that was helping emerging editors to like go into the industry. And it's an extremely helpful program. It was like two mentors. My mentors were like, which I learned a lot from them, was a woman named Inbal and a guy named Alex, and both of them are professional editors, and they literally mentor me like to go like how to negotiate my own contracts, how to pitch myself, how to like so. And the program was for a year, and then I had other mentees, collaborators with me. We were like 5 in the group, and I think we were able to help each other, and that was like an extremely helpful program for me too. So this is another thing that I will encourage a lot of people. It's just like try to get into programs. These programs are normally free. Obviously you have to compete sometimes, you have to send a letter of recommendation or like your resume, but those are programs that if you get in, you can get really lucky on like getting like people mentoring you through a year, 2 or 3, whatever the program it is. So I'm always looking for this type of programs to advance. Yeah.
Hmm. That's interesting because even if there's some are free and some are not, it's an investment
Yeah.
that mhm, that maybe people should, save on the side because what you get out of it or who you get out of it might be the path, may be the whole way to your own path of being what you want to be in your career.
Yeah, exactly. I always see everything as an investment, honestly. Even my master that took me like years to pay off, I was like, okay, Carla, this is an investment for your future. So everything that I literally like carefully look into it and spend is just like it's your investment, it's your future, it's your like it's gonna go back to it. Like it's as simple as, like, it's a stupid example, but like I used to be a premiere editor, and a lot of the people in the industry, they told me like, you have to jump to Avid. I was like, but I don't really know Avid, and like it's too expensive to take the course. And it's like, Carla, just do it. I think it's gonna be worth it. So so I went, I certified myself in Avid, I got the first job, and in 2 weeks I paid my course. So I was like, yes, you have to, like, at the time that you are about to spend the money to do something, is like, oh my God, how I'm going to do that? But then you really have to think it's an investment, and the investment is going to go back somehow at some point. And, and that example for smaller it made me realize it's true. Like, you have to keep learning, you have to keep like advancing in your career. And the way to do that sometimes is spending a little bit of money, but it will go back to you if you keep fighting.
What would you say has been your favorite project that you've worked on, that you feel is the success to everything that you've done?
Ooh, it's so complicated because there is so many wonderful projects, and really every project I did, like, I'm a really specific, like, so I choose the project. So it's just, which is really important for me. It's just like, if I
Now,
have,
how do you get to choose your project?
well, if I get different offers, then like I will choose the project. I was like, okay, this is the project I want to do. Or sometimes I contact somebody and say like, hey, I see that you're starting this project. I'm extremely interested. Like, I want to work on it. Now that being said,
But that's a luxury to
yeah,
choose your project.
yeah, I only have been able to do that for the past 3 years. Before, I had to take absolutely everything that came in my way.
Good
But
point.
thankfully, the past 3 years, I have been able to like pick and choose a little bit. I was like, okay, this is the project I want to do, and all of that. Because as a documentary editor, sometimes a project lasts for 1 and 2 years. So if your heart is not invested on it, it's extremely difficult. You will be very miserable. So you really have to be extremely interested on what you're gonna cut. Also, to respect of the people you are cutting, right? Because you're playing with real people's lives. So you really have to be invested to the story. That being said, I think my latest project, Menudo Forever Young, has been one of the most important for me, just career-wise, because I feel it's like one of the first one. Even though I have some in Amazon Prime, I think this is the biggest one that will go internationally. So I think this is kind of like, it has been kind of like my goal since I arrived here 8 years ago. And finally, 8 years after, the investment took 8 years, but 8 years after, I think that project is the one that I'm hoping it will give me a little bit more of the spotlight that I was always looking for as an editor.
Have you written a few
Yeah.
project or something? Tell us about, as a screenwriter.
Yeah. So this one, I wrote my first movie. I wrote it back in 2015. It was a movie called Camila, and I was extremely lucky because I got to present it in Cannes. So I literally, like, it was my thesis film for my master. These things that sometimes it's like, oh, they say like, oh, it's a thesis film, it's a student film. No, if you really invest your time, if you really invest your power into that, thesis film could be your introduction to the world. And that was my mentality. This is a thesis film. Yes, I have a school backing me up, but this is my letter of presentation as a Carla Roda, as this type of movies that I want to do. So I did this movie. That was kind of my first one, but it's true. Like, back in college, I will say, like, back in 2010, 2011, I there was something traumatic that happened to me, and I started writing, like, kind of like entrances in a diary, like how I was feeling and all of that. And when I finished college, like, I started that 2 years before I finished. I figured out, wow, I have 500 pages written into this diary that could be converted into a movie. Because what I was trying to, like, convey, or like the message, I was very feeling very lonely because I was trying to help somebody that really really didn't want to be helped, and I needed that, and I knew that person needed help, but they didn't want to be helped. And by the time I was trying to help that person, I forgot about myself. I forgot that I was struggling too. I forgot that that person was putting me into a very very deep hole. and I forgot about my mental health, and I forgot about taking care of myself, and I forgot about all of these things. So when I read the diary years after, I was like, wow, there is a message here, like that sometimes we are trying to push ourselves to help people because that's what, that's what we have to, like help people, put other people in front of you, but sometimes you have to realize that you yourself, sometimes you do need help too, and you get buried into like trying to help people, and and that's the problem of mental health, I feel. So I call a friend of mine that I study with him, and I said, look, I think I have a movie here, let's do it, let's write a movie. And it took us literally 10 years to write this script because I was busy with other things. Screenwriting has never been my main thing, but I really wanted to put that challenge on me. I was like, I want to write something, but I want to write something that is mine. I want to put my personal experience into it. So we finally finished, I think, last year. My godfather is a screenwriter. He's a famous screenwriter in Spain. So I sent the script to him. I was like, I need criticism, like everything you can give me. Like I need to learn. So we redid the script, and then finally last year we started pitching it. So I'm extremely excited. The movie is called Let Go, and yes, and it's really about the simple message is really about like sometimes we have to remember to take care of ourselves before we take care of other people, because mental health is extremely important.
And so many great screenplays have been presented to the world based on personal experiences, whether it be happy or sad. So
Yeah.
this is something that as our viewers can learn from. Sometimes those diaries or those notes just about you can turn out to be something, because so many people experience some of the same things.
Exactly.
And what you bring from your personal experiences, people relate to, and therefore you may have a hit on your hands.
Yeah, exactly. I always say that movies could be like, movies are really like almost therapies. I feel like, it's always when you feel sad, you want to put the movie that makes you happy. When you feel happy, sometimes you was like, let's make horror. Like I think that's why it's so important, this industry, and I think that's why it's so important to get people to work on it, to hear other opinions, to see other visions. I think like really the industry, even the music, but it's like one of the only things that is an international language, right? Like you can present a movie anywhere in the world, like, and and make people feel the same things, any like being in different parts. I feel it's an extremely powering a tool to help people, the movie industry.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your godfather, award-winning. You didn't mention his name.
Yes, his name is Bernardo Sanchez, and he was a couple of years ago. He was nominated for Best Goya for as a screenwriter for one of his scripts. And yeah, he's a screenwriter teacher in Spain. So really good. He's one of my mentors too, I will say. Like in the screenwriting world, he's my mentor. I feel I have a mentor for every section of my life because I try to do so many things that I need so much. But I think that's how you get your community too, your support. And like, I'm just really lucky that I feel the support and the love for everybody that like I go and say like I need help.
Right. Well, our time is up, and Carla, we have enjoyed this so very much. We've learned a lot from you. We've learned a lot about you, and we're excited about your projects coming up. And we look forward to seeing all of them and seeing you just get greater and greater in your field of study. And I know you're going to be beyond the big screen. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I have a great time.
Yes, good. And this is Hollywood Scriptwriter Magazine, spotlight of screenwriters, producers, and directors, where we profile industry makers who tell us how they made it in the big screen. Until next time, I'm Angela Cranon. Make it a great day. Hollywood Scriptwriter Magazine is a trade publication that profiles screenwriters, producers, and directors. We let you into their lives where they tell you how they made their mark in one of the toughest industries of Hollywood, the big screen. Subscribe today at hollywoodscriptwriter.com.